one of the mighty pythons, you know, so she's like, oh God, that's really sort of strange.
We just have these two tables.
Yeah, we thought you'd find
Yeah,
somebody.
wherever. Yeah.
I'll get up now.
Can I get over here? I don't want to have a range.
Yeah.
Oh, would you let me know when you want me to do the lunch and learn.
It's up to you. I'm not
I
going to be
have
here
to-
much longer, so you
I have
gotta
to make
pick
a
time.
decision.
You gotta be independent.
I have to make a decision. Oh my God.
We're gonna just give it a minute for people to
Yeah,
settle in.
yeah.
Not that central platform in space.
Oh,
That was not intentional, sorry.
I knew I would allow my mother to walk in the room with us, and she was like, does anybody want to watch the bridge over the river fly with me? Yes. I do. And Erica's like, he's singing that 6-5. It's like, yeah, we're gonna just watch. Awful. She said, will he stay up late enough? What time's it over? 1 o'clock. Oh, it's worth it.
Should I get started?
Yeah. Go ahead and get started. Go.
Hi guys, I'm Allie.
Hi, Annie.
Hi,
Oh, hi. I've been member here for almost 2 months now. So I'm going to be talking about not Moana, but first Moana. So this is baby Moana from the hit animated movie Moana.
Hi, Moana.
Nope.
And this is my family. Yeah.
Baby
They're-
Louie.
These are all of my family members. So, these are my 2 kids and my husband Mikey. And so we're a biracial family. My husband is Filipino and I'm a mix of Eastern European, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of things that I worry about as a mom, and one of them is racial identity and making sure that we as parents are making our kids feel whole and making them feel validated in all the parts that they are. So when we saw Moana when I was 8 months pregnant, it was super important to us, and my husband and I both ended up crying. And it became even more important when my daughter was 18 months old and she saw this movie for the first time. And in this particular scene, she looked at it and said, "That's Korra." And again, like, the waterworks, because representation matters even to a 1-year-old. She doesn't look exactly like Moana, but she saw something enough in this character that she recognized it and said, "That's me, I'm that." And that is so incredible to me that she would see that. So there's actually been a bunch of studies about the impact of media and specifically TV on young kids and how it affects their self-esteem. And so researchers have found that everyone but white boys were affected negatively by TV because black and white girls and black boys don't have a lot of representation and they don't have a lot of positive representation. So being able to increase the amount of mirrors that you see in media is really important, not just for how you see yourself, but also for how other people see you. So that's one. Moana is great. I love this quote, "You can't be what you can't see." Which brings me to this image. I work for Instant Fit. We're a health tech startup here at Indy Hall. We pay people to exercise through their company's health and wellness benefit. And as I was starting with our marketing, these are the kinds of images that I was seeing all the time, and this is garbage. This is what the image of wellness looks like across the board. It's thin, it's white, it's unrealistic. It's women laughing at salad. It's all of this. All of the stock images, all of the websites that you see, they all look like this. But in reality, wellness can look like this, it can look like this, and it can look like this. So I made it a real point as I'm starting to build out our image library that we need to have more diverse stock images that represent not only our clients, but the world around us, and help people to feel like, hey, I can exercise, I'm healthy, I can do this stuff too. And it was really interesting that the day that I was building out our stock images, someone posted on Indie Hall Slack asking for recommendations for yoga and saying like, oh, I'm interested in trying it, but I can't do all that bendy, put your foot behind your head stuff. Like, that's not really me. But that's not actually what yoga is. And if that person had seen perhaps representation of someone like them with their body type and their age, they would feel more comfortable doing it. So now our stock library looks like this. And this is the kind of collection that we want to portray. So I did a ton of research and got on a bunch of stock photo websites and found ones that are really good. And I downloaded like 200 images to try to build out just normal people, a range of people doing everyday things. And I think it's making a difference because I've already heard people say to me like, oh, those are really good images. So I just wanted to share some of the resources that I found. There's a lot of websites that you can go. If you have a budget, I would recommend paying for them. Yeah. Tonal is a great one that has a really interesting body diversity on there. Getty Images Lean In collection, and if you have a lot of money, I just put it on there. If you can look at it and see what they look like. I don't think anyone can actually afford to pay for those images, but they're great inspiration if you're going to be able to take home photos. And then on the free side, Unsplash, you may see those images everywhere, so I say use it with caution. They're kind of history, and that is where that image came from that I hate with all the women with their midriff showing and 2-pound hand weights. Nappy.co is incredible and gorgeous. I put their tagline up here, beautiful high-res photos of Black and brown people for free. It is so incredible. But the MVP that I really want to recommend is Raw Pixel. That's what we use now. They have hundreds of free images, but also premium images. So you can pay a sliding scale of $5 to $30 a month and get all of the images that I showed in this slideshow. So I would recommend, even if you're not the kind of business that uses stock photos, taking a look at the images that you do use on your website or your product and thinking about whether they actually represent the people that you represent and the clients that you want to serve. Whether that's the new Indie Hall website or your law firm or your app. So that is my soapbox. Back to my case. How does this usually work? People like ask questions, you just
Yeah. At this point, if anybody has any questions for Allie, do not hesitate.
I just want to put a comment out there that, like, so I work for Accenture, and I'm one of the people that does like research in the MCI for a system, and these are images, that sports bra image. I mean, Allie's going to complain in meetings. That's all I see for gyms, and it's not just like representation of ethnicity and gender. It's also like this whole awful campaign against women. Like that, this is how sports bra abs. Like, this is the body that we were going to the gym for. And it had such a negative effect on me working for this company because all of a sudden my browser is filled with these ads about lose weight. So like I'm so excited seeing these images. I was almost tearing up like, oh my god, I wish I'm so happy that our company thinks in that direction. So it's not just like, it's amazing to have it like inclusiveness of not just, racial identity, ethnicity, gender, but age and physical types, and like the idea of opening these pathways. So many of our clients are not or from. So yeah.
If anybody has other great stock sites, please send them to me, or photographers who specialize in that locally. Please let us know. Yeah.
I also find it interesting, your whole thing on yoga is, I have an artificial hip. I used to play soccer all the time. My activities are more limited. I thought of yoga, I thought of Tai Chi. I see these people with their little yoga mat, and I'm like, I'm not going to go there, because, that's the image you sometimes get from a lot of these sites, that it's just a bunch of companies, doing their yoga thing.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, I think it's really important to be able to see like, oh, I can do that for sure.
I was trying to take a shortcut and not raise my hand.
Sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, Kotaro.
Ah,
I do relate to the challenge. So I grew up in Philadelphia the majority of my life. So growing up, most of my content was, or most of my role models and POIs was the guy who can't go or something. Yeah, that was the.
I'm sorry.
So he basically was the Apu of Japanese Americans that day. But then, so it's interesting to see that sort of attention. The other question is more in terms of like, so none of the major stock, major sites like buystock.com, they have nothing like.
They have very few. Like the problem with using stock photos is that they're not customized. Like they're made to be mass produced and mass marketed and be like bland, and there's just not a lot of diversity there. And if you see it, it's usually stereotypical, or it looks like very forced. Like, oh, we're checking the box. Like we got an Asian guy, we got a black guy, we got an Indian girl, we got a white lady. Like boom, and a wheelchair user. Great, done. And there's no thought behind it. It doesn't look real. So I'm hoping that things are starting to change, and I am seeing a lot of that with these other independent sites that are addressing this need. But yeah, it is really hard to see on like the bigger website any kind of meaningful diversity.
I'll add to that, and I got emotional a little bit when I was looking at your kids. I'm Christina. I'm a language literacy specialist, and I've been working the past year on developing curriculum materials for struggling readers, mostly in who would federally qualify as being from an at-risk background, Black and brown kids, kids for whom our schools were never designed. They get that support in school, but the materials that they have in hand are often really funny. So for the first part of my work, I wrote about 60 small books that were written specifically for socio and linguistically diverse and developmentally diverse kids. We've been working with a great number of illustrators who've done amazing work, but we also wanted to use photographs of children, and we had a limited budget to do photo shoots. So I took a lot of time on these stock photo websites, and it blew my mind to not be able to find anybody who looked like the kids who would be reading the books. And that statistic that you mentioned, if you're in the literacy world or in the education world, you see this all the time that Black, brown, anybody who's not white, they don't see themselves in books very often. So this is a critical issue. We ended up having to scrap a lot of the book ideas because I couldn't find photos for the actual books, and we just got in a photo shoot book that I sent with an African American family. It was done in Seattle, and they couldn't even find actors to do the shoot. So it ended up being a biracial family, which is also great. But looking at, this resonates with me because kids really do see themselves. Your 18-month saw themselves. Even books that the kids have in hands that are illustrated. I couldn't believe I heard one of the teachers was using it, and it was just a diverse classroom, and the kids had never seen kids who had looked like them before in a book, and they were 6 years old. So this is really a justice issue, and I immediately went on nappy.com. They're beautiful photos, and I just wish that there were more of them, right?
Awesome. Well, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, aside from being a mom. So please, I would chat about this all day, but I don't want to take up everybody's time. But yeah, it's super important. So thank you for sharing that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime you want to do a show, tell them.
Here's another one of Louie.
Whose phone is this?
Maybe that's Alex.
Allie's phone?
Oh,
That's
here.
you.
That's what I mean.
Thank you.
Would you like to show pictures of Allie's kids?
Sure, why not? What do I got? Hello, my name is Kotaro. My day job is usually as a consultant for mobile web and games. My hobby or my side gig is usually making games. I participate with affiliate game mechanics, so we're all about making the games. One of the interesting challenges about making games for 3D particularly is characters and character animation. And you know, it's hard because like everything in 3D is hard, right? You gotta make the 3D character, you gotta texture the 3D character, you know, put on all the colors and all that jazz. You have to rig the character, so add the bone structure for that character. Then you have to make sure that that bone structure isn't all wonky that sometimes you see in those glitchy video game reels. And then you have to make sure it animates correctly. That's multidisciplinary. That's that's challenging on multiple levels for particularly indie developers. I came across this app called Fuse. This is Adobe, so it's free. Free, assuming that you have Creative Suite. So not free, but free if you didn't think you were supposed to have it in the first place. It's a beta. I'm pretty sure they probably bought it from somewhere. If you know Poser, the app Poser, which is basically it allows you to create 3D models of character models very easily. It's not particularly, you know, great in terms of the type of characters that you ultimately create. You know, you have the same problem as Pose as you do with any other app, or any other like 3D character model. It's like it's very generic looking. It's almost like if you've ever played those WWE games with the character selection where you can create your own wrestler. It kind of looks like that. So, and you know, we talk about representation. Well, you know, I don't know if everyone has these fantastic abs, but you can, don't worry, nobody's going to be naked in this. They always provide at least an underwear. But you can add and change and modify. So if you want to give this guy like an ogre arm, you can do that. Which I don't know exactly what that is. But the cool thing is like, so you can create this character and you can actually customize it with the eyes and like give it more bulge or give it more body or add clothes to the character. So maybe this is too boring. Maybe you just want him a vest and underwear. How's that? He's ready for his interview. Maybe we give him some shoes. Give him some cowboy boots. You know, that'll be good. Give him some hair. Give him like nice permy 80s hairband look, maybe. Or you can give him long, I don't know what that is. Long hair like that.
He's good.
You can give him eyewear, or you know, and this is guys and girls, so it's not as if I'm picking on this guy here, but yes, you can make really bad. You can give him some gear. So there's a lot of, and you can customize all of this. You can change the color of these things. You can modify them as you see fit. I don't know what I'm creating, by the way. I have no idea what this character is ultimately going to look like. I just think it's kind of funny that I can do all kinds of weird stuff with this character. Okay, you don't want to do that. That looks fun. But we do want to give him a mustache. Really, what am I missing? Oh, right, the bottom. None of these look really, yeah, let's do one of these. And voila. So, so here we have our character. He's in what they call a traditional T pose because he looks like a T. That's just to get him in a state where it's easy to add the bone structure for him later on. But what's cool about what I noticed here is the send to Mixamo. And Mixamo is a service online that also comes free with Creative Suite. So when you press that button, what that automatically does is automatically creates the bone structure for that character all the way up to the fingers, and if you wanted to get as far as doing the eyes. And that gives you a free animatable character that then you can take into another 3D program
and animate that, yourself, or you can allow Mixamo to provide like canned animations for you. So I'm not going to do that here because I already have one pre-set up. So this is the Mixamo website. Again, you just need to log in with your Creative Suite login, and you pretty much get it for free. Again, it allows for you to create to take a lot of the existing 3D assets they provide for you, or put up your own. I've already created one. The only caveat about this service is that you can only use one. It doesn't allow you to save several of your own custom 3D models. You only can do it one at a time. So basically, you import your 3D model into the service, and then you create the animations, and then you export out. But then if you want to do a new one, like let's say you did an ogre, and then you want to do like, I don't know, a gremlin. Like you can't save the ogre for later use. You have to swap out. So I already have one baked in. I call him Adam. Hopefully he comes up.
Does that look like Adam?
I was doing this the other day, so. Yeah. But it's cool because you can kind of see him. The thing you want to do, especially for game development, is that you definitely want to export out the T-pose. So you can download it, and you can get it as an FBX format, which is kind of like the Photoshop format for 3D. FBX for Unity, which allows you to do it. That's a Unity-friendly rig that you can actually do like ragdoll physics easily in Unity. Or another thing called Collada. Collada is the format that is kind of like an open standard. Think of it like the PNG of 3D from a file format perspective. But the thing about Collada is that a service like Apple's ARKit only takes Collada format. I mean, you couldn't technically do it through a Unity plugin, but Collada is the format of choice for SceneKit within Apple, which allows you to create AR, kind of like an AR scene in 3D natively. And I'll show that a little bit later if we have time. So now, once you get the T-pose in, you can add these sort of like custom animations to Adam. So we can get him dancing, we can get him samba dancing. You know? I mean, you can get him fighting too, but who wants to see him fighting? I really want to see him do what they call it. Sure what that's all about.
The dead face is so upsetting.
You can actually set up a rig, like a custom rig for that, but I didn't have time to figure that part out, which allows for you to set up like facial expressions. So yeah. So again, the cool thing is what you would normally do for that is that you would export the T-pose, and then any of these animations, you get all these animations for free. Fighting animations, walking animations, dancing animations, even sports-related animations. So if you want to see Adam playing basketball, I guess.
What? Is that what basketball looks like?
Yeah, you can actually adjust the speed and stance and that kind of stuff if you want. But yeah, so jazz. Yeah.
Zombie kicking. This is amazing.
Yeah, there is surprisingly a fair amount of wealth, so that you can export this out, bring it into Unity. It takes a little bit of configuration, but if you're a relatively seasoned game developer, you can add it to your game and just add that little extra pizzazz. So let's take, for example, a crowd simulation game, or like a game with a lot of just generic humans walking through the scene. You can do that in Views and or whatever your stock animation, and then add it to your game pretty easily without having to create all these assets or customize all these assets. You can also select a character file. I mean, if I'm running out of time, by the way, sort of just happening at this point. Where Sean from Philly Game Mechanics, he's our fearless leader, even though he doesn't like to admit it. We have a 3D model of them. So But the way it kind of set up, this is a custom 3D model. This is something that we have, just to show you how easy it is to implement. You bring in the 3D model, it knows how to orient it properly. You set up where the wrist, the elbow, and it might be wonky, the elbow, the knees, where all the key joints are, basically. And then, just swimming around here. Sorry, Sean. And then you can set up your standard skeleton, which is probably the easiest. And then what I'll do is I'll auto-generate that, and then create the bone structure for it, and then for which then you can do, you can then assign the animations to. And that's kind of how it works if you have custom animation, custom character animation. I don't know if it's gonna do it in time. The service usually takes a while, but I'll take questions while we wait.
Can you offer a use case for this other than making like non-playable characters in the background?
So I thought about it from a standpoint of like with ARKit. So that's the 3D character, by the way, as it is. So you can kind of just make sure that it works. And then once you're done, yes, sorry, I'm gonna replace you, Adam.
Okay.
And then now, Sean's dancing. So, oops, I had created so I created sort of like this AR example. Sure if it's gonna work because it has to figure out. Oh, yeah. So like if you have an AR system, right, you can add that character in there.
Oh, you can
and
just
then,
put them into physical space.
Right. And then that allows you to just create these sort of assets for you for free. I mean, easily. So they can do, if you want to demo, sorry, I'm just gonna, I don't know if this will show at all because you have to like see it, but basically.
Oh yeah, you made a fox. Okay.
I made a fox there. So that fox, not a fox, it's hiding behind the chair. But you can talk to me about the demo. But basically, like you can create character animations that you can put into your scenes, into your demos, into your. Let's say you create a service like Mapbox creates custom 3D maps, right? If you want to integrate that into Unity, but you also were doing a demo of like, hey, we want to add some characters in there. Just have Sean over here in a walk cycle, and then you just create a whole, army of Seans. Yes, this is how people walk. But you can create like walk
I've
cycles.
seen Sean walk that way.
Can you just go ahead and turn the drunkenness meter all the way up?
All the way up?
Yeah.
I
Can we
didn't
just
know
see
that.
what that is?
Yeah, sure.
This is like laying on his face.
You will never see this in real life. This man does not drink, but yes, you can do that.
Well, so what happens when you put it all the way to
The other way? Good question. Probably would just.
he's so well.
He drinks a little bit. Yeah.
It's like a little
More of a
loose.
zombie, more of a slight zombie takes rather than the speed the spring down, the speed down.
That's
But yeah.
amazing.
So, so the beauty is that yes, maybe not obviously, this might be something you might want to use in some service, but whatever. There is an opportunity for integrating sort of immersion in any of our 3D projects that you might come across or you might do. Heck, you can just take this, put it into some 3D program that accepts like this FBX format, and then make silly stupid GIFs with it. That's up to you. But the point being is that again, if they have Adobe Creative Suites, this is a service that you can kind of get for free with that service, and it can, it might be something that might help you. I don't know, make some presentation out or whatever. So yes, primarily you would expect to see something like this useful for games because it saves me time making characters. But it might be something interesting for people outside of that, particularly in the AR scene.
Wow. So you said you have to have Adobe Suite, Creative Suite.
Yeah.
I want to play.
Can you give the characters genitals, or is that an add-on?
General? That is a,
specific
that is a,
Hypothetically.
you can, but that's not a requirement. Are we talking about the Adobe Views?
Yeah, just in general.
You don't need to show it, Kotaro.
Oh, no, don't
But
worry
if
about
you
it.
were
Yeah,
to.
You can't, that you'd have to do custom.
I
So,
was wondering. Wow.
so any questions about Adobe Views or is,
Are there add-ons where you can like, create new stuff, or like as far as if you're looking at video games, like where you can make it more mythical creatures, or anything like that,
Yeah.
like stylized clothing?
well, I forgot to mention, like, there are custom characters you can do
Whoa.
that are a little more like sci-fi or fantasy-like.
Make that one drug.
Whoa.
Yeah, this one comes in mesh.
Ah.
Drunky, then
No. Wait, hold on. Why is Remy in there? He doesn't fit in.
Ooh, Remy? Well, he's not necessarily. Well, these are all like a ton of stock characters.
Okay.
So you can just, this one makes a lot of sense, but you can get all kinds of different ones for free. And again, these, and if you don't want to even create your own character, you can get one. You can just use one of these, and you can even have like cartoony style ones. So, and some of these actually have facial rigs set up. Sporty Granny? Oh yeah, sweet. Why not?
How's that for your stock photos?
I'm changing our strategy.
Sporty
I think
Granny.
our website needs animated characters.
Right. So, yeah, so it's kind of cool. It's one of those things where like it was really easy to pick up and learn. I was super shocked because it was like, this is the kind of thing where I dread having to do, to make 3D characters and make them, it's not so much the making the character themselves that's the pain point, it's the rigging and, it takes a special type of person that likes to do that kind of setup, because it's painful.
Outstanding. Thank you, Kotaro.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have kind of something special circumstances today. We don't actually have a third presenter. So Sam and I were talking about doing
Chat roulette.
show and tell, not chat roulette. We could do that, but that's a different show and tell. If anyone who is here now would like to give a short presentation or an introduction, you have the floor. You have the opportunity to do that.
Why don't I tell them what we're going to do with the education special event?
Yeah, do you want
Why
to
don't we
pitch
tell
that?
people? Well, I was thinking June 6th or 13th. How does that look? It's in every Wednesday, right?
Sure. Actually, if you wouldn't mind, you want
I
to?
just told you that we're going to have a special lunch and learn on the topic.
Would you like to tell people for me?
What?
Would you like to tell people? So it's not me telling.
Yeah, no, I was going to offer to.
Oh, please, yeah.
Right? See, I'm such a shrinking violet, right?
Oh no, not you.
I was thinking the 6th or 13th. Yeah, okay, guys. What we were talking about is people on and off have been talking about having some kind of an education effort at Disney Hall. Like what, there's just all kinds of talks going around about what, and there's actually one co-working space, which I don't remember, that started it and mushroomed into a huge entity that brought money and all kinds of things. So I was suggesting that I was going to do a show and tell, but Adam and Sam persuaded me to do it as a lunch and learn in the future. Where it's not going to be a presentation, it's going to be more of I'll be moderating more of a, not a focus group, a discussion, what it should be, what it should look like, is there a need for some educational effort? Because we have so much talent in Indie Hall. We have a lot of people doing things. Like there's one person who we're talking about sports, and she really knows a lot about how to follow a game. That would be really cool. And there are people who have all kinds of really unusual things besides the usual tech stuff and sketching and art. So anyway, I was just going to have it so if people want to mark it or note. And if you are interested, let me know or let Sam and Adam know so we'll know to schedule them. Because if there's zero interest, then we won't do it. But if there is interest, then we'll plan it. anyway, that's, did I explain that clearly enough?
I would say, would you give an example of things that people could offer? Like,
Well, I
how
was
would you
hoping,
volunteer?
well, I was gonna see what more thoughts. One of the, one of the questions is, people have been saying we need something, we have space, we can do classes, people are offering, I do stuff online, we could run webinars with, anytime I give a webinar, I can get it on City Hall's calendar and combine it that way. There are all kinds of ways to do it. As far as topics, I think there's topics that are more tech-oriented, that are, more straightforward. I think that one of the things that would be interesting is we talked about, when a lot of people come to Indy Hall not, in a state of flux where they're shifting, and that would be an interesting area. We could talk about anything people are working on, but the key is to see what would make sense, given that there are so many educational outlets out there now. Where would Indy Hall fit in? That would be the first question. And the second is exactly that, what would be the type? But it starts with the audience. Who would the audience be? What is it about Indy Hall that would make it a unique venue for doing this? And I have been thinking about it because I was in higher ed for years and years, and I've done a lot of all kinds of online stuff. And there's a lot of stuff out there. So is there something unique in Indy Hall? Or could it be, I'm thinking out loud, it may not be a place to offer, it might be a place to bring together things. And Alex does stuff that are educational. So there is a sense that my thought was to simply moderate the discussion, get someone to volunteer to write things on a whiteboard, and then make that the first step and see what happens. Yeah. So anyway, since you guys like the idea, I was thinking June 6th or 13th. How does that sound on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
We could do a test. If absolutely nobody's interested, I won't do it. But is there a way we could sort of say, could you please indicate your interest? And
Sure.
If nobody's interested, then we won't do it.
We can post a group post, maybe a simple survey to ask if people are interested in either date or what they would like to.
Right, or a different, and they could obviously do it through Zoom. Anyway, so that was the thing. So I was going to do it as a show and tell, but you guys convinced me not to.
I think we have a lot of material.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot more than 10
we have material.
minutes.
If we have, if we have the key, more people come. So
yeah,
that's my note. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, Kat. Would anyone else like to offer an introduction, pitch an idea for something we could do in the future, present something? Jose, do you want to show us what character modeling tools you use?
No. What's that program?
I have about 5,000 more baby pictures anyway. A lot.
Cool. Okay, so if you would like to give a show and tell, we do show and tell on the third Thursday every single month. If you're brand new to Indy Hall, it's a great way to introduce yourself. If you've been here for a long time, it's a really great way to remind people of who you are and what you work on and things that you're interested in talking about, connecting with. If you would like to do a show and tell, you can talk to me. We'll get you booked for June. I think we have you, Aubrey, booked for June. And
Anaya as well.
And Anaya is booked for June as well.
And I think Dan. We're booked for June.
Yeah, I think we might be. We'll check in because things change.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you, Allie. Appreciate it. What do you want to do with show and tell? How to
We need to try that. Guys, we need more food. I was going to buy some
Oh, the salad
desserts. We are out of stuff. That thing is moving.
Yeah.
I was going to get it over to take home, but if it's not there.
Okay.
But basically, it should do incentivize institutions. So basically what happens is